Hi, all of you wonderful scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast, where I break down the latest scuba diving news and just general things that have piqued my interest over the previous week. This week on the podcast, some new diving equipment. It's quite nice to see some new things being released. Otherwise, more than a few accidents this week, or at least that I'm catching up with. There is a nice story about a guy who's making some artwork out of beach debris, but a few divers over the previous week and such have been hurt and killed recently that I do have to report on, and Dan Insurance has responded with how they plan to improve their procedures due to one of the instances. There's also an interesting statement from the training agency RAID. That seems to be in a response to an unconfirmed statement from Paddy about dive centres in Europe. So the first news story is about a Florida teen who is turning the tide on ocean pollution, if you could, by basically transforming beach trash into just art pieces. From what I can see, he's made a mantis shrimp, which is pretty cool. There's also a like cuttlefish design, all sorts of things. I think there's actually like a showcase and art exhibition of his work on a Carnival cruise line, a cruise ship of all things, which is in Port Tampa Bay. The artist himself is Ryan Moralovitz, and he's very dedicated to cleaning up the waterways and not just cleaning it up, but turning it into something else to A, kind of raise awareness, but B, just to kind of do something, not just put it in a bag and then throw it into landfill. He was originally inspired to start doing this after witnessing a group of teenagers rolling a tire into the ocean. What of all things that teenagers can do? They're clearly bored. Rolling a tire into the ocean, yeah, great. But he has created an organisation called the Fish's Wishes, and it's proven its commitment by raising nearly $30,000 for various ocean conservation groups. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to see these kind of teenagers who are passionate about the ocean, and it is nice to start off with a nice news story before I get into the more negative stories. So the first one is a 28-year-old scuba diver hailing from Uttar Pradesh had a fatal accident when he went to plug a leakage in a lock gate of the Teesta Dam in West Bengal. He was stuck in the crevice of the dam whilst working at a depth. Now, this, I think, is a typo because I've looked into the Teesta Dam. The Teesta Dam itself is only about 30-something meters tall, but they say that, they've said it a few times in the article, they say that he was working at a depth of about 300 meters. Now, I don't know how that's possible, and it's a river as well, so I presume that's 30.0. They just missed out the point, or their zero key is just stuck. If you watch scam beta channels, you probably get that reference. But the scuba diver, he hailed from Uttar Pradesh, died in this terrible accident whilst working on a lock gate of the Teesta Dam on Monday. The incident has triggered a lot of panic in the area. According to police sources, the deceased scuba diver's name is Siddharth Savita, who is a resident of Uttar Pradesh. Savita was a contract worker for the Rambishta National Hydel project, and he's been working for that NHPC for at least a year. He's previously worked as a scuba diver with another company, and the young man was very experienced in scuba diving, and he was sent to do some repair work at a lock gate number 4 on Monday afternoon. He went diving into the waters, and he was repairing the leakage. Again, it says at a depth of about 300 meters. I mean, that's not scuba diving depths. We're not reaching 300 meters on scuba. That's like saturation diving. So I presume that's a typo, or the way that the the article is written, it kind of feels like auto-translated, so it could be a lot of things sort of in there. But anyway, whilst working on the leakage, he suddenly got stuck in the crack of the dam due to the pressure of the river water. There was no way for him to wriggle out due to the strong pressure of the water. This is delta P. I don't think it gets taught enough in like foundational courses, just how careful you have to be around moving water and especially restrictions, because you get delta P, which is just a difference in pressure. And yeah, if you become that plug, then yeah, there's no way you're going to get out. They realized that he was stuck. And after about an hour, the dam workers managed to rescue him. They opened the gates to release the water pressure, and then after I think it was an hour and a half, they managed to recover his body. It was taken to a local hospital, and now they're looking into it. The statement from the NHPC official said he got stuck in the crevice during the dam work. He went into the water with all the equipment and protection, including an oxygen cylinder. I presume it wasn't an actual oxygen cylinder. I presume it was an air cylinder that they mean. But unfortunately, he got stuck in the crevice. There was no way to save himself due to the heavy water pressure. Later, his body was recovered. As per rules, his family will be given all possible assistance and compensation. So yeah, again, even if you're diving in like swimming pools are quite a high chance of this happening if you're swimming around the drain of a swimming pool and it's actively draining, then yeah, it can suck you, and then your body basically becomes a plug, and it could be very hard, if impossible, because you've got all of that weight of the water above you pushing you down. So do be very careful around like any of these like drains and anywhere where water movement can be around. It's quite a dangerous place. In Australia, a spear fisherman has got in some rather hot water, especially with local divers, for killing or potentially killing basically a celebrity. So for decades now, scuba divers in Sydney enjoyed the company of a very friendly eastern blue grouper who they reckon to be as much as 40 years old, and it's known to locals and visitors as Gus the grouper. This was until a spear fisherman from New Zealand apparently killed the iconic fish on the 30th of December. And as he got out of the water, he initially expected beachgoers who were gathering to take photos of him as like, oh yeah, no, everyone's amazed at this big blue grouper that I've caught. He thought they were there to be admirers. It soon became clear that they were basically collecting evidence to use against him. Because it's actually illegal. The incident occurred at Oak Park Beach in South Cronulla, and the 26-year-old culprit subsequently got away with just a 500 Australian dollar fine. It's about £264, and was questioned by the police. The penalty was imposed for taking the fish without use of a rod or hand line. The maximum fine could have been $22,000 or a prison term of up to 6 months, but no court appearance is required, which is why the diver's name was not issued by police. According to one report, the man had later shown significant remorse for his action. Obviously didn't understand that it was a big no-no. The blue grouper, which is a type of wrasse, has been the official fish of New South Wales for more than 25 years, and they are a protected species, though only from commercial fishing and spear fishing. You have to use a rod. The PADI course director Peter Letts, who's the owner of Abyss Scuba Diving, which was founded in 2000 and actually uses a blue grouper as their logo, said that Gus was more than just a fish. He was an ambassador for marine conservation. Outstanding. Delighted divers with his mesmerizing hues and gentle demeanor. So this was a very, very popular fish. And as soon as this spear fisherman came out just carrying what looked to be Gus, obviously a lot of people around knew Gus and weren't very impressed. One of the potential reasons why he was spearfishing in this area is that the kind of the borders and the areas where you can and cannot spearfish are a little bit grey. They suggest that the boundaries between local spear and no spear areas were ambiguous and needed clarification. By doing so, we can proactively prevent any potential harm, such as an uninformed spearfisherman inadvertently targeting a scuba diver. Yeah, God forbid that. But yeah, they have like signs with maps which are pretty bold and obvious. It's like, yeah, you're not allowed to spearfish in these areas. So yeah, should have sort of known. But in a twist to this story, David Ireland, who's a wildlife documentary maker who originally gave the grouper the name Gus back in the 1980s, later claimed that the fish that the guy had caught may not in fact be Gus at all. He said that the dead fish was a bit smaller and lacked a very distinctive scar near the tail, where Gus had once been speared before. So chances are it wasn't actually this famous Gus, but of course scuba divers will have to confirm whether they see him in future. It's not as simple as just sort of going in, go scuba diving, go free diving to catch some fish. Because you might be catching a local celebrity. Do your research and do be careful. A young man who was scavenging for scallops off the Pacific coast of Mexico appears to have been killed by a shark. A young fisherman diving for scallops was killed by a shark off the Pacific coast of Mexico, authorities have announced. The man, identified by reports as 22-year-old Victor Alejandro Soto Garcia, was reportedly attacked by a great white shark on December 29th. On December 29th in the Mexican state of Sonora. The body of the young man was taken by his fisherman colleagues to the pier in Yavaros, the Sonora Civil Protection Agency said on social media. Authorities said the victim was not wearing an anti-shark repellent bracelet. That's an odd thing to specify. The anti-shark bracelets, they use electrical pulses or magnets to deter the predator. I've seen some tests of these, and they do seem to do the job. They explained because sharks have that powerful sense to detect like electrical impulses of like heartbeats and stuff, that when you're wearing one of these, it's kind of like shining your high beams in their eyes, and it's just a bit intense for them, so they don't get close. After the fatal attack, the Sonora Civil Protection Agency urged fishermen to have the necessary preventative measures to carry out their activities. Shark attacks are relatively rare in Mexico, but the incident marks at least the third deadly attack in the waters in Mexico in about a month. In mid-December, officials said a man was killed and a woman was injured in an attack by either a shark or a crocodile at a Mexican Pacific Coast resort. So yeah, you do have to be very, very careful with these sorts of things. And if there are natural predators around, then yeah, you do have to be sensible about it. And maybe skip the dive if things feel a little bit dangerous. One fairly big news story that's been going around, especially on like scuba diving social media, is an incident that happened. I think it was just before Christmas, and it appears that DAN, the Divers Alert Network insurance system, really didn't sort of work as well as it's usually advised and how it's supposed to work. So from what I understand about the incident, because I'm not fully briefed up on it, but I've been trying to follow it as much as possible on like social media and the diving forums and stuff, but a diver basically got decompression illness after a dive and left it a little while before seeking medical treatment. But that's kind of, you see it a fair amount. A lot of divers will kind of brush it off and just like, I don't feel so good and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm tired, but I've been doing a lot recently and I'm just kind of like physically tired, when actually there's signs and symptoms of decompression illness, whatever. Got to the local medical centre in, I think it was the Bahamas, and the doctor there didn't really know. They weren't up on diving medicine and decompression illness because it's a fairly obscure area of medicine. So it's not unusual to find conventional doctors who don't know about decompression illness and all the signs and symptoms and stuff. But he had Dan membership, Dan medical insurance, and all that kind of stuff. The buddy of the diver who was ill got in contact with Dan. Dan sort of took in all of the information, and they advised that yes, we believe there's a strong chance that you have or that the diver has decompression illness. They can't officially diagnose over the phone for obvious reasons. All of that has to be done by the physician in front of the diver. But they did offer their expertise to just consult with the physician to give them all of their scuba diving medical expertise. For whatever reason, this appeared to have been turned down, and because the diver needed to be transported to a hyperbaric chamber, it was quite late at night, from what I understand, or early in the morning. So the way that Dan typically works is, as soon as the case comes in, they then pass that on to a separate team inside of Dan, who then organise transportation. They're in-network transportation, as it were, was didn't fly at night, so they couldn't facilitate a transportation to a nearest hyperbaric chamber in a particularly timely way. But the other divers who were there on the ground managed to find a local air ambulance who could transport them. It's just because it wasn't in Dan's network. There are a few complications, mainly to do with paperwork. The diver was required to fill out several forms, which Dan have released a full statement, kind of breaking down sort of what they know about the case at the moment, because they're still investigating, and how they're already improving and planning to improve. But yeah, they basically said it was kind of ridiculous for the insurance company to require them to fill out a claims form before treatments and all this kind of stuff. They did have to fill out a fitness to fly form, but that is required by the air ambulance, that third party air ambulance that Dan can't really help with. That is necessary paperwork, but the other stuff, they're like, nah, you know what? We can focus on paperwork after you've received the medical care that you require. The diver did have to pay for it, up front, which was pretty costly. I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the tens of thousands of dollars, which Dan Insurance is supposed to pay for, and for whatever reason, kind of didn't. But again, in the Dan statements, they basically say, yeah, no, we should have paid for that up front. The diver has been reimbursed and everything, but we're not entirely sure why the diver had to pay for it himself, both the treatments and the transportation. So there's kind of a lot of things fell over, and it was this kind of perfect storm. And Dan have quite rightly kind of come out and said that they're not trying to sweep anything under the rug or make it go away or anything. They're very upfront and said, yeah, we screwed up on this, that, and the other. Here is how we're improving, because they've already implemented a few changes. I think the first one is that paperwork. They're like, you know what? No, we can fill out paperwork later. We can push that off until after they've received the treatment they deserve and require. The first person that answers the phone is going to be involved in every stage of the case going forwards, instead of passing it to different teams and some details can get lost. It's just going to be one person who's always on the phone, at least dealing with it. So there's one point of contact who knows everything about the case. They're reaffirming that, there are very experienced people on the phone to talk to physicians who may not know about diving medicine. So they're going to be a lot more persistent about that. Yeah, we have this expertise. We strongly advise that you at least consult with us, because for whatever reason they appear to have turned that down. Not really sure why. They're also planning to greatly expand their transportation and emergency action plan network. At the moment, they just kind of have okay, here are the people that we work with air ambulances and all that kind of stuff. But they're also going to include and build a database of alternatives. Even if it's not something in their network, at least it's someone else that they can call in that area in an emergency, so they don't have to go searching around whilst the diver is literally on the phone, as well as emergency action plans for more areas. So it's just right, you're in this area, I'm going to activate this emergency action plan that has all of the information and all of the people and all of the things to do, just all in one place. Instead of having to build that on the go, it's just going to be there for the call operator, whoever's sort of talking to the diver, to make things a lot more streamlined. So they really are looking to expand their services and improve. And some of the improvements were already in the works, but now they're really going to be expedited to make it just as smooth and swift as possible. And finally, there was an interesting statement from Dive Raid International, who are a big scuba training agency now, and they say official response to changes in businesses practices. On behalf of the shareholders and management team at Dive Raid International, in brackets RAID, we wish to make it clear that our agency does not plan to restrict our members from conducting business however they wish and in a way that works best in their market. We are aware that a competitive certification agency has recently decided that dive centers in certain regions who, in quotes, fly its flag, may no longer offer courses from other companies, offering alternative programs in these regions, either to offer courses not in their curriculum or to simply offer customer choice, will result in what amounts to expulsion. RAID wants to assure its members that it has no plans to embrace a similar tactic. With very few restrictions, RAID allows RAID instructors and DC's choice and encourages broad support of the dive industry as a whole community. We also believe that doing so supports the spirit and intent behind our membership to WRSTC, ISO, RTC et al. Our open market policy is part of doing business the RAID way, which includes zero fee membership, highly competitive pricing, and support for our professionals rather than unilaterally deciding to restrict their businesses. We do understand that an analogy exists that whilst Hoover is synonymous with vacuum cleaners, consumers sometimes choose to buy Dyson because it better suits their needs. The same may be said for consumers deciding to buy scuba and freediving training. Brand primacy does not equate to the best choice for every consumer, and RAID believes in a fair, open market. Again, RAID supports customer choice, and we are comfortable being judged on our high standards, track record for safety, quality, inclusiveness, and ethical business practices. Now, that was quite an interesting statement to come out, and from what I can tell, it's in a reply to this statement. Now, this is unconfirmed. This appears to be a screenshot from what I can see, and doesn't have a header, doesn't have a signature at the bottom, so I can't promise that this is official. And it appears to be from PADI to PADI dive centers in the Middle East and Egypt, and I couldn't find a confirmation of this on the public side of their website, so take it with a pinch of salt. But the statement goes, "We are writing to inform you of a significant change to the status of dual organisation centres in the Middle East and Egypt. Effective from 2024, PADI EMEA will no longer accept membership from centres offering other training organisations in the Middle East and Egypt. This strategic change was made after careful consideration and with the interests of the PADI membership at the heart of the decision. We have already successfully rolled out this strategy in a number of other key EMEA regions. Ultimately, by having only 100% PADI centres, PADI will be strongly positioned to provide the best possible business, training and marketing support and resources to our membership while protecting the PADI brand. Founded by divers for divers, PADI is the world's largest purpose-driven diving organisation, fueled by of 6,600 dive centres and resorts, 128,000 professional members, and more than 29 million certified divers to date, all of whom are united by a passion to seek adventure and save the ocean. PADI has developed the training gold standard for safe scuba diving and underwater exploration, and the world's most elite diving professionals and instructors are PADI certified. Our research shows that receiving multiple competing offers of different training agencies and brands from a single dive center is an ongoing source of frustration and confusion for new and existing divers. I would love to see the citation and data on that. Over 75% of divers actively seek out PADI dive centres because they know that the courses and adventures you are offering represent the best in the industry. Again, citation needed. For over 50 years, PADI has been the way the world learns to dive, setting the standard for the highest quality dive training, underwater safety and conservation initiatives, whilst evolving the sport of diving into a passionate lifestyle. From 2024, centres that will not be able to maintain their PADI membership can still certify and service PADI divers through their individual membership if permitted by local regulations, ensuring they follow the PADI standards and procedures. There may be exceptions for some technical diving organisations with different requirements. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact your PADI regional manager, who will be happy to assist you and provide more information. Thank you for your loyalty and dedication to PADI. So it appears that it's like if you teach PADI and another training agency at your dive center in the Middle East and Egypt, then they're basically going to say, no, we're no longer going to accept your membership. It's all PADI or no PADI, which is an interesting ultimatum, and the RAID response to that apparently just seems to be, you know what, if you want to teach RAID and other training agencies, fine, it's no skin off our nose. We're happy to offer our training materials and our expertise. You can teach RAID and other agencies. It's a bold statement if it is. Because it is still unconfirmed. It is just a screenshot. That's all I have to go off at the moment. That's an interesting way, and I think that's sort of how it works here in the UK. I believe it's been a while. I was always under the impression, whilst I was a PADI instructor here in the UK, that at my dive centre it had to be PADI. You couldn't teach any other agencies. So it seems they're expanding that out to the Middle East and Egypt, which will be a big shake up in like Sharm el Sheikh and the likes. Onto new diving equipment, Fourth Element announced a new version of their Arctic undersuit, which is quite interesting updates. I used Arctics for years whilst I was teaching, and you see them all over the place. Whenever someone's dry suit diving, typically they're wearing Fourth Element Arctics, and there's a new style to it. Fourth Element have been going through their range and just updating and upgrading them. From what I can tell, the main differences are, one, there's a women's specific design. There always was a men's and women's, but I think they've just redesigned it to make it a bit more comfortable and a bit more female specific. There's obviously a male version as well to go with it, but pockets. It's nice to see lots of pockets on this, so much more practical. That was one of the things with the Arctics that I was using, didn't have any pockets. I think the generation after mine, they started to have that little pocket on your bicep, which is convenient for small little things, but it is still nice to have proper pockets and like hand warmers. They're making it ocean positive as well. So they're making it with 80% recycled polyester in the outer and 100% recycled polyester in the inner layer. So it's a bit more ocean friendly. Easier donning. The Arctic top has those hand warming pockets and a full length zip, allowing for much easier donning. It's not just a like a pullover. It's a full zip at the front. If you get the right size, it can be pretty tricky to get the Arctic like on and off. But yeah, they've improved that. They've added P-valve sections for the leggings, so you don't have to make your own holes and have to break out the sewing needles to fix it. So yeah, I'll be quite interested. It seems that it's pretty much the same materials and whatnot. It doesn't seem that they've improved it. They've just changed where the materials are coming from, but it's still just as warm, just as thin. And yeah, 1-piece, 2-piece. There's the socks as well, and they're making the Arctic hat, that like deer trapper hat that covers up your ears, in both men's and women's, except for the hat. The hat's unisex. So yeah, that was quite interesting to see. It's nice to see an update for something so popular. And continuing, the Maris Avanti Quattro Plus fins now come in 2 extra colours. They come in orange, which is my favourite, so that's quite nice to see. But it also comes in a new colour, olive, which, yeah, if that's your thing, is that like army, like greeny browny? If you drop it in the silt, you'll never find it again. But if that's your color scheme, then yeah, go for it. But yeah, orange and olive are 2 new colorways for the Maris Avanti Quattro. They're not going to discontinue the Quattro anytime soon. It's such a popular film, and yeah, it's expanding in its colorways. There's at least 9 colorways now for the Avanti Quattro. I thought there'd be more. Oh no, the flamingo is still in there. Oh no, they don't call it flamingo anymore. It's called the flame. Yeah, nice, bright, colourful, and very effective fins. Also, as far as new equipment that's shown around, the Shearwater Tern is showing up on dive centres' websites now. It seems to be they're shipping it. There's the black and the silver version. Otherwise, very much the same as before. But yeah, the Tern, I'll be quite interested to get my hands on one. It's like a light version of the Terric. It's like what the Peregrine is to the Perdix. It's a less technical version, and yeah, it just seems like a smart color screen watch size dive computer. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what that's like. Not a lot of time left, so I'll go through some Ask Mark questions pretty quickly. Adam Hawken 3485. I'm thinking of investing in some scuba tanks. I regularly dive manifolded doubles. However, I also sometimes dive side mount or with independent back mount singles. How easy is it to disassemble, reassemble a twin set between dives? Is this a sensible thing to do? Am I better off buying 2 pairs of cylinders, one manifolded, one not? Yeah, the technique itself isn't that complicated. It's just a real rigmarole. And not something that you'll do between dives, because you've got to drain your cylinders down. Yeah, no, you can do it. It's just I wouldn't want to do it very frequently. It's you basically have to drain your cylinders down. You then loosen off the tank bands, slip them off, but you've got to make sure that the cylinders don't bend or twist or pull. And on that, on the valves and on the manifold, unscrew the manifold, plug them, and then refill it. Basically, it's not that demanding, but if you don't have the tools and stuff, it's a bit of a pain. So yeah, if you got the space and the money for it, yeah, just 2 pairs of cylinders are so much more convenient. That's what I've got downstairs. Rhiannon 2921 says, I've recently bought Aqualung Legend Elite Black Regulator for a Christmas present for myself. I dive once or twice a month. Is it best practice to A, curl up and store the regulators in a padded regulator bag, or B, store laid out flat straight in a sealed container bag? Ideally B, because some regulated bags can be quite small and compact. And they basically just curl your hoses, and they can just pull on the ferrule, the like metal section that clamps onto each end of the hose. If it's in a really compact bag, it can just kind of pull on that section, which isn't great for your hoses. But as long as they're dry and clean, then most regulator bags are big enough for regulators, and you don't have like proper long hose primary. Donate 2 meter long hoses and all the extra stuff that comes with it. As long as you don't have too much and you're not packing it into the bag too tightly, it should be fine in there. Ideally, yes, it should be laid out nice and flat in a sealed like plastic bag, so the ozone can't like corrode it in the dark and all that kind of stuff. But a regulator bag is not a bad place to store your regulators. Jodaki 8883 says looking for some good small lights and knives that you would recommend that can be attached to a BCD, not for night diving, more for a backup. Knives, you got Easy Cut, Trilobite. They're very easy to recommend. A pair of trauma shears. They're very rarely branded, but they're nice and cheap, and they're both very effective at cutting through lots of obstacles. Otherwise, I do quite like the Aqualung squeeze knives, because the release mechanism kind of ensures that you've got a good hold of it before you pull it out, and they're quite nice and blunt as well. Blunt tip, but sharp edges, so you can cut through things, but you're less likely to stab your BCD. Small lights, it's truth. There are so many out there. Orca torch for a good budget. Dive Pro as well, make nice dive lights. The Scuba Pro ones are very good. If you've got the budget for it, the Apex Luna Mini, very similar to this Simply Scuba Mark 1, which I use. It's just small, compact, built-in rechargeable battery, and it's just very, very powerful, compact torch, and it's factory sealed, so you don't have to worry about it flooding. And I'm going to call it a day at that, because I really am running out of time. Just be careful out there, everyone, especially if you're foraging for food around natural predators. Look up Delta P if you want to kind of scare yourself and you don't know anything about Delta P. And keep an eye on the Dan story. That's quite interesting, and the Paddy one as well. I'd love to see some confirmation of that. I think it was just posted on a forum, on like a Facebook post or something. So it would be quite interesting to see some official statements from Paddy about that. But anyway, yes, remember to check out our website, scubadivingmag.com. Consider a magazine subscription as well. It's available all over the world, mainly because there's a digital version. We've got 3 different versions of the magazine. You've got the kind of European version, Australia, New Zealand, and the Americas. We have those magazines. You can also get them in print if you like something to physically hold and flick through. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, do all that good social media stuff. Thank you for listening, everybody, and of course, safe diving.